Hello, my dear ones. I'm excited to be here again. Since I'm experiencing like a surge of energy, I want to honor that. Um, Also because I don't know how much it's gonna last, so I want to like ride the waves of my own energy, and so I wanted to continue communicating with you now that I have the possibility to do so. And the topic for today, it's quite interesting. I wanted to talk to you about the materiality of thoughts, and this is something that I did research on my dissertation, different traditions and different authors speaking about how our thoughts are material. Of course, not with the density of like my hand or the flowers here, but material uh, in a different sense, but yet material. So, what was fascinating for me about this idea, and if you need some references, in Light in the Dark, Luz en lo Oscuro, and Saldúa talks about the materiality of thoughts. There is also Luisa Teich speaks about the materiality of thoughts within her tradition of root work, and also there's a lot of European mysticism that also speaks about the materiality of thoughts. So I kind of went to different traditions to see if they had that idea in common, and I found that they do. And so that was interesting to me because it helped me to formulate my concept of the spiritual archives. So the spiritual archives is one of my main theoretical frameworks for my dissertation. I also published an article about it. If you want to check it out, the link is on my bio. But to make it more accessible, I guess, is this idea that we have documents, we have archives with books, and museums and places that hold objects and documents and manuscripts and stuff, and we call those an archive, right, in the physical world. And when I started to learn about the materiality of thoughts, I started to think, well, likewise, if these are material and they call it thought forms, if there are thought forms, there is like the concept of having an archive of those makes sense, right? And there is so much to explore there because within what I call the spiritual archives, that obviously has had different names in different traditions, so obviously I didn't invent it. I'm just trying to like bridge discourses in academia so that we can like continue this research. Within the spiritual archives, there are emotions, there are thoughts, and then there is also spiritual knowledge or thoughts that are more close to the source, if you want. And so maybe we want even to like divide those in different categories or call it different names. But the thing is that I was thinking, okay, so if we have thought forms, what I was interested in was about the access, right? So if we have an archive of those thoughts, emotions, and spiritual knowledge, let's say, we can access that, right? And because I do performance studies, I was interested in how we can access those through embodied practices. So dance, movement, experimental theater, performance art. So how can we get to that knowledge, especially the spiritual one, through embodied practices, right? And so that also means, and this is, I guess, something that I didn't focused on, but I want to offer to you, is the fact that if we have the capacity to access spiritual knowledge ourselves, and with the help of, in this case, as I was telling you in other videos, with the help of our like spiritual guides, right? Because we are just one mind, and we won't be able to access all the knowledge because we cannot process it, right? So we need guides and stuff like that. But The thing is, if we can access the spiritual archives and mostly related to spiritual knowledge for guidance and everything like that, that also means that in a way we can access or decide if we want to access or not other types of thoughts, right? Especially negative thoughts. So one of the most difficult disciplines that I have had to learn in this lifetime has been the discipline of my own mind, right? I do encounter, for many reasons, one of those that I am a highly sensitive person, as I was telling you last video, is that I have access to the difficulties of the world, thinking of the difficulties of the world, the challenges of humanity, and how hard and harsh this world is, right? And that has led me to a lot of spirals of negativity, right? And for many years, I mean, almost 30 to be honest, I felt a victim of those negative thoughts, right? Because they have, so something that is also interesting within this idea of the materiality of thoughts is that they also have resonance with the alike, right? So let's think about thoughts as like a garden, right? When you have animals and you have plants and stuff like that, and they are all like thoughts, emotions, you know. And there are certain thoughts that are attracted to certain thoughts because they are alike. And so let's say, I don't know, bunnies that eat certain plants. So if you start to focus your mind onto the bunnies, then the plants are gonna go in, and everything that is alike is gonna like pile up. And with negativity, that's really rough because you can go into like spirals of negativity. And for many years, I was telling you, for 30 years at least, I felt like a victim of my negative thoughts because of how powerful you can enter those circles of thinking. And I just felt like a victim of that. And like I cannot stop myself from going into those spirals. This is part of also my anxiety disorder, right? And so what was interesting about thinking of thoughts as material is the fact that I can think of the possibility to look away, right? So I have the bunnies and I have the plants, and I can choose to say, no, I want to see this way where the dandelions are, right? And this is quite philosophical, and this is like, you know, I'm a philosopher, this is my interest, because for I mean, in the 18th century, a lot of the this, well, no, to be honest, from the beginning of humanity, we have always questioned reality, right? And I think there was a lot of discussions around the fact that we cannot prove that reality outside of us exists, which I know it sounds bonkers, but this has been a whole arm of epistemology and like studies related to knowledge and the impossibility to prove you that, you know, beyond my thoughts there's something else. And then Matrix just made it really clear, right? But this is kind of the Descartes predicament and all of that. And so now I'm telling you that not only you know, there is something outside, but that thoughts are also outside of us. And so not only in our brains, but outside. And you know, this is something that it resonates with me, and as I'm telling you, I have been studying it, it makes sense to me, so I offered it to you. You might think like, well, what are you talking about, that's bonkers. Or you could be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I think this is where the spiritual comes in as a source of knowledge, because before kind of like formulating the idea of the spiritual archives, I committed to a discipline within myself to access those. So like I wouldn't say that's my doggy. I wouldn't say that something that I'm offering if I haven't experienced it myself. And so what I did was you know, speaking of discipline, discipline of meditation and prayer and, you know, contemplation, and also some movement based work to see if I could connect to the spiritual archives, especially related to the thinking that is more guidance and like helps humanity, right? And I did. And so it's interesting to think about thoughts as something that is outside your head. But I do think it's useful because, and this is kind of the message that I wanted to tell you today, you can decide what to think, and you can decide to stop the train of your thoughts if they are going to like a very negative place. So in meditation, for example, we have heard like, see, look at your thoughts and let them like pass through you, or like contemplate them and let them go. Yes, that is a part of this. But then if you start to like look too much to something, kind of to the bunnies, you yourself have to guide yourself out of that, right? And this is like a constant practice. It's very difficult, but at the end of the day, it improves your life so much, right? So I have committed to different disciplines in my lifetime here. As a Kundalini yoga teacher, I did different like practices of like 40 days, waking up 4 a.m. and doing a certain thing with my community every day. And I then meditation. I for my whole life I have committed to a discipline of exercising for my anxiety and like my peace of mind, and different kinds of disciplines. But the one with the thoughts is the hardest for me at this point, and it takes mastery, right? So you're gonna see yourself going into the spiral, and then you have to pull yourself out and back. And there are many other tools to interrupt that cycle, right? And so also that's the other thing that I want to offer you is like, if you see yourself spiraling, there are different activities that you can do to interrupt that. You can go take a walk, engage in something physical, because the thing is that if you continue thinking, right, it's gonna continue. So if you go out and walk, but that doesn't sort of disconnect you from the thoughts, it's gonna be the same. But find the ways and the activities that help you out with, look for something pleasurable to like help you come out of that state. Take a shower. I mean, there's many ways, but at the end of the day, what's gonna be most helpful is to redirect your thoughts, because then you don't need to do anything other than that like gentle guidance of like, no, let's look at this way. and there is an idea that I had that if I didn't look at that negativity, I was missing something or something important, or like that those thoughts were telling me something that I needed to know, or confusing, and it happens a lot with anxiety, to confuse intuition with anxiety. and I can tell you that it's just not, the intuition has a calmness to it, right? And so whenever you feel distressed, it's not intuition, it's anxiety. So I wanted to offer first a little bit of like the most digestible version of what the spiritual archives could be, and then the idea of the materiality of thoughts as something that allows us to think about how to access both spiritual knowledge for guidance for the betterment of humanity, and also to see or contemplate the possibility that thoughts, or what they call thought forms, are something that you can disengage, with. You don't have to necessarily look at them or pay attention to them, and that could improve to some extent your life, I hope. So I can talk more about maybe next, or in the future. I also want to talk about the materiality of emotions, because that's really interesting as well. But for today, I think I wanted just to talk about the thoughts, and how that could be in a practical way something that helps us in our daily life. So that's it for now. Mwah, take care. See you next one.